Yes, this is the first video in a series where I'm going to talk about quotes, lines, teachings from different masters, maybe from slightly different traditions, paths, and basically use these things as a springboard to talk about my path, which I call natural path or Avadhuta path. So the first and most obvious place to start doing this is with a teaching or quote, whatever you want to call it, that kind of underpins absolutely everything that I talk about, everything that I write about for at least the past few years and certainly into the future as well. And that teaching is simply be you, by the great master Avadhuta Avatar Mohanji, who I had good fortune of connecting to and spending time with a few years ago, and still being connected with. Meeting Mohanji was like really finding my spiritual home on the Avadhuta path, which is also, it's the Datta tradition, Dattatreya tradition, right? This is what, Avadhuta, this is the word which is ascribed, we think, to Dattatreya when in the scriptures they spoke about this master with this 24 gurus, this great being, this great wild and free being that learnt from life, right? So meeting Mohanji really, it was like finding my home in that tradition. Before I was a bit homeless, even though I'd awakened to who I was, had all this experience of I am that and this and that. I'd even written these books, commentary to Avadhuta Gita, commentary to Ashtavakra Gita, which are these kind of non-dual texts. But it was only after, for me, meeting Mohanji and having this connection with him, that this whole new dimension of spirituality began to open up for me. And this dimension wasn't a new dimension of seeing, oh, I am the supreme consciousness, I am the supreme self, I'm not the body. It wasn't anything to do with that. I'd already had that experience. And once you have had that experience, and that becomes a permanent experience, then your path just becomes going deeper and deeper and deeper into that. But the path that opened up for me after meeting Mohanji was not just about going deeper into the supreme consciousness in that sense. It was also learning about Dharma. And Dharma is where supreme consciousness, reality, the absolute truth meets life. Okay? Meets the actual life that's happening around us, meets the life that we're actually living. Okay? Beyond whatever we want to say, I am this, I am that, I am the supreme consciousness, none of this is real. Okay? I'm not the personality, I'm not the ego. Beyond all of that, we actually have a life in the world. Things are happening. We've got things to do. We have relationships with people. We have scenarios come which may be difficult, which may be unfortunate, that may be challenging. This is life. Okay? So, after meeting Mohanji, this amazing thing happened, that whatever I'd realised, this great internal experience, I've written about it, this is all that's written about in Avadhuta Gita, Ashtavakra Gita, this began to permeate into all of the areas of life, and I began to realise that how this truth is to be lived. And not just how it's to be lived, but how it's not lived. how the way that we ordinarily live, we block ourselves from having that experience. So it's not just like these people that we call enlightened beings, masters, yogis, Avadhuta, siddhas, avatars. These are some just lucky beings. They're living the same as everybody else. They're thinking the same stuff as everybody else. But somehow they're the lucky ones and they have this amazing experience and overnight they're transformed into these godlike beings. No, it's not like that. This path is to be lived before awakening and after awakening, right? So this is what these two lines, two words, be you, came to represent for me. And when I first heard this slogan, I didn't really like it. It sounded a bit too simple, a bit too pithy, a bit too obvious, right? That was at the beginning. But later, as my own experience and realizations began to develop and evolve, I began to realize just how deep and profound this is. So I'll talk about it succinctly as possible if I can. So this teaching, be you, has two main dimensions to it. And this is the beauty of it, that it's multidimensional. All real masters are multidimensional. All real teachings should also be multidimensional. And two dimensions of this, the absolute dimension and the relative dimension. On the absolute level, be you means recognize who you are, recognize your essence as pure consciousness, awareness, presence, the essence of existence, whatever you want to call it. Recognize that and stay in it. Live as that, live through that. That's the absolute dimension. The problem is, just by hearing, okay, be you, same as just by hearing you are that, I am that, all these, slogans, this doesn't actually help most people realize that on the spot and realize, oh, I actually am. In my experience, this took a lot of work, a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, getting to that point of having that realization, non-dual realization, if you want to call it that. So the beauty of this teaching, be you, is that there's also a relative dimension to it. And the relative dimension of be you is actually just to be you in a conventional sense. Forget about the absolute for 1 minute. Go back to your conventional way of being. I am this person, I am this body, whatever, I am this name, this is my life. Be you in a relative sense means to master this. Means to ask ourselves, am I really myself? Am I really living the life that I want to live? Am I really living honestly? Have I based my life around really doing the things I love, being with the people that I love? Could even be following the teachings, that we love or whatever, if we're spiritually inclined. It means to be you, be us as an individual in the fullest possible sense, so that our life feels deeply authentic. And this is not just a given thing. Some people wake up at 40, 50, younger if they're blessed to, and realize, I haven't been living my own life. I've been living somebody else's life. I've been living a life that I've been programmed to live by culture, by society, by my parents, by my friends, by whoever. So this level, forget about the absolute for a minute, this relative level of being you, being yourself, being authentic. Not everybody's doing this. This is not a given thing. Right? So the way I would apply this teaching, if I was talking to somebody, You know, I'd honestly say I'd give maybe Avadhuta Gita, Ashtavakra Gita, you've also got Yoga Vashishta, which I'm going to talk about in this series, which talks just about the absolute reality, the absolute consciousness. Or maybe you could take teachings of Ramana Maharishi also on this line, Nisargadatta Maharaj, whatever, Upanishads. If people don't get that, if people can read these things but they still don't get that direct recognition about who they are, right, then for me, they should work on themselves as what they think they are. They should look at their life, they should look at their concrete life and see, right, if I'm not able to grasp this, if I'm not able to actually right now realize who I am, realize my innate freedom, if I'm not able to do that, it's not random, it's not a miracle, I am living in such a way, I am doing something day after day that prevents me from having that realization. And to do this work, you can't just talk in circles with these non-dual platitudes. You have to actually go into life and see how you are living. See whether you have conflicts in yourself about what you actually like, what you actually feel, what you actually love, what you actually want to do, what you actually don't think you should put up with, but yet you're living a different life. There's elements of falseness in your life, there's elements of fakeness in your life, there's elements of insincerity, hypocrisy in your life. I know many people don't want to think about this. They want to ignore all of that stuff, say all of that stuff is not real, and say, no, it's okay, nothing's wrong, I'm the Supreme Consciousness. We can tell ourselves these things until the cows come home. But ultimately, if we are in that state, if we have recognized that state and established ourselves in it, then there will be a fruit to it. And our life will genuinely be free of suffering, and we will automatically benefit everybody around us and the whole world with our presence. There's a fruit to that state, realized state, enlightened state. There's a fruit to it. It's not just a concept. It's not just another identity that we impose over the top of our other identity that we haven't even fully refined yet, right? So this is why this teaching is so important to me. Working on ourselves on the relative level, being us on a relative level as fully as possible, as authentically as possible, this takes us closer to us on an absolute level. Because what it does is it reduces the conflicts in our mind. Ultimately, we don't recognize ourselves for who we are as the absolute reality because we're distracted. We're distracted by many things that we're thinking about. Right? Because that's there all the time. That's the substratum of our mind, is just this natural presence of life that's not necessarily identified with any body, any name, any personality. It's just there. Presence, aliveness, awareness. It's always there. We don't see it because we're too busy thinking about other things, preoccupied with other things. And being you, being ourselves on a relative level, being fully authentic, ironing out some of these inconsistencies in our individuality, ironing out the hypocrisies, the conflicts, the fears, the phobias. This makes our mind calmer because there's not all these little conflicts in there. There's not all these little hidden, shadowy parts in it. We get cleaner, we get more straightforward, we get more open. And this makes it so much more easier to recognize who we are eventually. This is not speculation. I'm telling you, this is an absolute fact. I only realized all of these connections after I had awakening. I wish I would have known it before. Some of the things I was already doing quite well and had been doing from child like that. Some of the things I was completely unaware of. I was wandering in the dark in this sense. But the essence of this teaching is that these two things, being ourselves on a relative level, fine, as who we think we are, personality, body, whatever, and who we really are as the absolute reality, these things are not separate. It's not that this is true and this is an illusion. These things are intimately entwined. There is a path that we can walk in this world, in our life, where we still are seeing ourselves as a personality, as a body. There is a path that we can walk that takes us closer to the absolute truth, which is just like beyond everything, right? And this is the path of BU. This is how it works. On our path, on Avadhuta path, everything is embraced. This teaching, this path can unfold from anywhere. And it doesn't unfold from anywhere by looking at someone and saying, oh, you're not real, you're not who you think you are. No. This path looks at people where they are and sees, okay, they've got this knot in their personality. They've got this pattern. They've got this inconsistency. So they can start at that point. They can start from unwinding that. And when they unwind that, they're not going to realize that they're the supreme consciousness, they're the cosmos. They'll just relax a bit more. They'll just decompress a bit more, and they'll get a bit closer to that. Right? And this is how our path works. It's a gradual decompression, but it's not based on concepts. It's not based on just telling people, oh, whatever, you are the supreme consciousness. If I tell you you're the supreme consciousness and you don't realize it on the spot, then there's other kinds of work that needs to be done, right? Because we're hiding ourselves from that somehow. It's clouded somehow, and there's work to be done to realize that. So, you know, our path, Avadhuta path, it's not afraid of that kind of work. Avadhuta path is not afraid of individuality. The masters of Avadhuta path are not afraid of saying, oh, I'm this person, that person, to do their work in the world, even if they're established in, you know, consciousness. So on this path, we can work with absolutely everything. We can work from wherever we stand, as long as we are honest about where we stand. If we are honest about our present state, our present condition, the present state of our mind, then on this path we can move, we can walk. If we're not honest about our present state, we can't do anything. So that's where this path begins. That's the beginning of BU. Be honest to yourself about where you are right now, what your problems are right now, what your issues are right now. Be authentic. That's how it begins. If you keep doing that again, more honest, more authentic, more fearless, more open, eventually that will take you to the recognition of who you are. And even then, after that, the journey goes on. As Mohanji said to me one time, awakening, which is recognition of who we are, is only 30% of the path to full dissolution, to full perfection. And so far this has been my experience as well. I had a good chance to meet this great master Avadhuta once I'd already had awakening, and meeting him made me realize, yes, there is further to go, there is more work to be done. A lot of people don't want to have that realization. Even before they're awakened, they already want to think that they're awakened, and they do this to avoid looking at themselves by seeing the things within themselves that they don't want to see. On this path, there's no hiding. On this path is absolute fire. And for me, BU is the quintessential statement, the quintessential teaching of this path, of the Avadhuta path. So many thanks to Mohanji for delivering that amazing teaching in such a succinct way, and also infusing it into the world, into myself also, just with his presence. This is what masters do. Masters don't even have to open their mouth and teach. the presence of the Master, the life of the Master, is itself a teaching, is itself a transmission, right? Especially on this path, especially on the Avadhuta path.